Last fall, Danielle Morris took my last $900 and bought a rotting, forgotten house in rural Pennsylvania. Broken windows, peeling siding, and a sagging roof. It looked like something out of a horror movie. But to me, it was hope. It was mine. My parents didn't see it that way. Neither did my younger sister, Brittany. Just a week earlier, I sat at her birthday dinner while my family gushed over the $12,000 spiritual wellness retreat she was about to attend in Colorado. When my dad asked if I'd wired the money I never agreed to give, I simply told them I bought a house. The silence was louder than any argument. Brittany scoffed. My mother called me selfish, and my father, the man who raised me, told me to pack my things and leave. No support, no understanding, just cold rejection because I dared to invest in myself for the first time in my life. They erased me from the group chat that night. But what they never understood is that I didn't need their approval anymore. That crumbling house, it became the symbol of my independence. They wanted compliance. I chose freedom. When I first stepped into the abandoned house I bought for $900, I didn't feel brave. I felt broken. Not from the cold Pennsylvania air biting through my coat or the musty smell of mold that lingered in every corner, but from the sound of my mother's voice still echoing in my ears. You've clearly chosen poverty. Don't expect us to support your delusions. That was the night they cut me off. I was 38, grown, educated, capable. But in my family, none of that mattered unless I played by their rules, especially when it came to my younger sister, Brittany the Golden Child. She was preparing for a $12,000 healing retreat in Colorado, and my father expected me to fund it like always. But this time, I didn't. I spent the money on something no one else could take from me, a decaying fixer-upper on the outskirts of a forgotten town. My parents were outraged. My sister laughed in disbelief. Within hours, I was removed from the family group chat. No calls, no holiday invitations, not even a take care, just erased. That first night in the house, I sat on a folding chair in the middle of a bare living room, wrapped in a thrift store blanket, wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. The roof creaked. A cold draft slipped through the cracked windows. But somehow, it was the most honest space I'd ever stood in. It didn't pretend. It didn't demand. It simply said, "You're here. Now start." The memories came quietly at first. A birthday cake when I was 16, neon pink frosting, and the wrong name written across it. They never fixed it, never even noticed. When Brittany got a car that year, I got a smile and a slice of store-bought sheet cake. That had been the pattern all along, me on the sidelines, her in the spotlight. I didn't speak up then, but I'm speaking now. In the weeks that followed, I started rebuilding. Not just the house, but my sense of self. I borrowed tools from a neighbor. I watched YouTube videos on how to patch drywall and lay flooring. I painted over mildew, scrubbed away decades of neglect, and little by little brought the place back to life. And just when I was beginning to feel grounded, the texts came. First, "Don't come to Easter." Then the voicemails polished, careful performances from my mother. "You've always been the bigger person, Danielle. Maybe it's time to move past this." It wasn't a compliment. It was a manipulation. They didn't want healing. They wanted silence, mine. Then Brittany showed up. She needed a place to stay. Her retreat had fallen apart. A pipe burst, her bookings were canceled, and suddenly she was knocking on the same door she once mocked. I let her in for a night. But in the morning, I found her live streaming from my kitchen, turning my humble home into a punchline. It's giving Great Depression chic. She laughed into the camera, angling her phone just right to show every crack, every imperfection. She wasn't here for shelter. She was here for content. She posted a GoFundMe using my story. Photos of me dragging garbage bags, captions about rebuilding and her brave sister. It raised over $18,000, all deposited into her account. No mention of me, no permission, no shame. But this time I wasn't going to let her win. With the help of a paralegal named Elsie, I started collecting receipts, screenshots, timestamps. We filed a cease and desist. And on the night of Brittany's big wellness gala, in front of her sponsors and camera crew, the truth caught up. The live stream froze as she opened the legal letter. Her carefully curated brand collapsed. And I didn't say a word. I didn't need to, because I had already built something she never could, a life on my terms. One brick, one boundary, one breath at a time. The scent of old wood and fresh paint was still settling in when I opened the email that would change everything. It had been 2 months since I'd moved into the rundown $900 house no one believed in, especially not my family. While I patched broken drywall and brushed paint over years of mildew, they went on pretending I didn't exist. I wasn't invited to Easter. I was erased from the family group chat. My parents said I'd chosen poverty. My sister Brittany made jokes about me living like a mountain witch. But now it wasn't about isolation anymore. It was about clarity, especially when I found out Brittany had created a GoFundMe in my name, complete with tearful captions, blurry pictures of me carrying garbage bags, and dramatic appeals to help my broken sister rebuild. The campaign raised over $18,000. The money deposited straight into her business account. She hadn't told me, not once. I found out the way most people do through a friend's concern message. Did you approve this fundraiser? No, I hadn't. The lies had layers. In her campaign, she described me as emotionally unstable, someone who refused help but desperately needed it. She painted herself as the selfless sister reaching out to save me, and people believed it. The comments overflowed with praise, calling her a saint and the definition of family. Meanwhile, I sat in a half-renovated kitchen with a cracked coffee mug and a sinking feeling in my chest. But this time I didn't shrink. I got to work. I began documenting everything, the screenshots, the live streams, the donation receipts. That's when Elsie found me a paralegal from Colorado who had stumbled across the campaign online and knew something wasn't right. She messaged me directly, calm and professional. This looks like civil exploitation, possibly wire fraud. Want help? Yes, I did. Within a week, we had assembled a full case file. Every transaction, every false claim, every quote she posted about me being mentally spiraling in a moldy hoarder shack. Elsie drafted a cease and desist letter. She warned me not to confront Brittany directly. Let the paperwork speak for you, she said. And it did. The night Brittany held her Healing Families Gala in Los Angeles, the same event she used my story to promote Elsie, hand-delivered the legal notice during Brittany's live broadcast. It happened right on camera. 1 minute she was talking about sisterhood and love. The next, she was holding a manila envelope, her smile cracking. The live chat went silent. Then it exploded. Clips went viral. The donation link disappeared. And within hours, multiple sponsors pulled their support. But I didn't celebrate. I didn't throw a victory party. I sat in my old house, my home sipping black coffee, and watching the sunlight fall across the newly refinished floor. What happened after that was quiet, but powerful. Emails arrived. Apologies from people I'd never met. Organizations that had unknowingly worked with Brittany reached out to me directly, and my story, the real story, began to surface. That old house with the broken porch, it became the start of something much bigger. The neighborhood rallied around me. I hosted cleanup days. I shared my experience not for pity, but to show others they weren't alone. and for the first time in my life, I felt seen not for how I could serve others, but for who I was. I didn't need applause. I just needed peace. And brick by brick truth gave it back to me. There was something poetic about my sister showing up in a cashmere trench coat to the house she once called a junkyard shack. The morning she arrived, the porch boards were still slick with mountain dew, and the wind whistled through gaps in the siding, like the house itself had something to say. When I peeked through the worn curtain, there she was, Brittany heels tapping sunglasses, perched high, looking like she was posing for a high-end real estate magazine, in front of a house she once laughed at. She didn't knock. She announced herself. "Mom says you've gone full mountain hermit," she called out to a passing neighbor. "But hey, some people need their rebellions right." I opened the door just as she turned back toward the house. She beamed. "Well, there she is, the proud homeowner," she said, stretching the word proud like it was a joke. I didn't flinch. I didn't smile. I simply leaned on the door frame and asked, "Are you doing wildlife surveys now, or just here for the scenery?" She smirked and replied, "Relax, I'm just checking in." But I knew better. She always had a reason. This time, a burst pipe at her luxury wellness retreat. A total disaster, she sighed, hands fluttering like a soap opera actress. "Just need a place to crash just a night or two. Anywhere is fine. Even here. Even here." Like it was a campsite. Like it hadn't nearly cost me everything. Part of me wanted to slam the door. Another part remembered all those years I'd kept quiet just to keep the peace. So I let her in. "Just one night," I said. And in she swept like royalty, slumming at heels, clicking across rotting floorboards, casting judgments with every blink. Character, she said, of the walls, and probably mold. She said it with a smile. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and something worse. I stepped into the kitchen and stopped cold. My table, the same scratched old table where I had cried over unpaid bills, was now a backdrop for Brittany's Instagram Live. A glowing ring light bathed the kitchen in artificial light. My dented kettle had been shoved aside, replaced with lavender candles, oat milk, and props that didn't belong to me. And in the middle of it all, Brittany. In full makeup, perfectly styled, smiling into her phone. "Say hi to my angels," she cooed. "We're doing something really meaningful today. I wanted to show you where my sister, bless her heart, has been living." She panned across the room, the cracked tile, the mismatched chairs, the fridge that barely worked. "It's giving generational trauma," she laughed, kicking the fridge door. I walked over, quiet, calm, and took her phone off the tripod. "What are you doing?" she shrieked. "You want content," I said. "Here's your headline. Get out." Her mouth opened in a gasp, the camera still rolling. "You mocked me," I said. "You turned my pain into performance." She stammered some excuse. "It was for you, I swear," but I didn't care anymore. I handed her the phone and told her to leave. "You can't take a woman's story and sell it like a product," I said. "Not this one." As she stormed out, coat flapping and pride bruised, I felt something shift inside me. Not revenge, not satisfaction, but relief. She had always been the one to write the story, the one everyone listened to. But this time I had turned the page myself. For once, the spotlight wasn't on the curated version of who I was. It was on the woman standing in her own house with her own name, her own voice finally being heard. I hadn't even had time to breathe before it happened. That morning, I padded into the kitchen, barefoot, half awake, hoping for a moment of quiet with my chipped coffee mug and the smell of paint still lingering from yesterday's repairs. I just sanded down the last of the floorboards in the hallway, and for the first time in weeks, the house felt like it might finally breathe with me. Then the phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won out, And what I saw stopped me cold. A GoFundMe campaign. Title, Help My Sister Rebuild. Photo, me sweaty, hunched over a garbage bag on the porch. Caption, my baby sis has been through so much. Let's give her the life she deserves. Funds raised. $18, $340 beneficiary Brittany withdrawals going straight to her business PayPal. My stomach twisted. She hadn't told me, hadn't asked, just taken again. Scrolling through the photos, I saw pieces of my struggle twisted into pity porn. My couch, my front porch, the inside of my home, all used as props for her soft, filtered performance of sisterly sacrifice. But she never sacrificed a thing. She didn't build that broken floorboard. She didn't paint those walls or sleep in the cold while the heater coughed and failed through December. She wasn't there when I sat in the dark, calculating whether to buy groceries or caulk. Yet there she was, monetizing my pain, playing the savior in a story I never asked her to tell, and people were eating it up. You're such a good sister. I donated $50. Hope she finds peace. You're an angel for helping her. I wanted to scream. Instead, I cracked my coffee mug on the table and stared out the kitchen window, breath fogging the glass. Then, like divine timing, I got a message from a woman named Elsie, a paralegal. Hey, I saw the GoFundMe. You didn't authorize that, right? This could be civil exploitation, possibly even wire fraud. Want to talk receipts? Something clicked inside me. Not rage, not despair. Clarity. I messaged back one word. Yes. And for the first time in weeks, I felt it power. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but quiet, methodical resolve. The kind that gets things done. I began documenting everything, screenshots, timestamps, donation data. Not for revenge, not for a headline, but for myself. For every quiet woman who's had her pain repackaged by someone louder, richer, more charming, and more fake. I stayed up all night gathering files, not because I was angry, but because I was finally done being used. The next day, Brittany launched her big healing live stream. She'd been hyping it for a week. Soft lighting, inspirational music, faux vulnerability. You know the type. But halfway through, a courier arrived. A cease and desist letter slid into her hands, live on camera. The chat exploded. Comments flew like sparks. Screenshots were shared across Reddit. Legal Twitter dissected every angle. And Brittany, she blinked, stammered, and for once had no script to follow. Her live stream went dark. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just sat back, hands wrapped around a warm mug, breathing in the quiet justice of it all. It wasn't about the money. It was about the truth. And finally, the truth was on my side. The lights in the hotel ballroom were golden soft and carefully designed to flatter. The room buzzed with voices clinking glasses and just enough acoustic jazz to make everything feel expensive. But I wasn't here for ambiance. I wasn't here to clap for Brittany's curated redemption arc or to admire her champagne-colored gown that shimmered like polished deception. I was here to let the truth breathe for once. I hadn't been invited. Of course not. This was her moment. A fundraising gala titled Healing Families One Heart at a Time. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't cut so deep. I found a seat in the back row, didn't want to cause a scene. I just wanted to watch the mask finally slip. Brittany took the stage, glowing, smiling, with practiced warmth. She thanked the donors, praised her team, and spoke in soft, tear-tugging tones about family wounds and resilience. The crowd nodded. Some even dabbed at their eyes. She was winning them over. Again. Until the projector glitched. At first it looked like a simple mistake wrong slide, maybe. But then the message appeared in 10-foot font on the ballroom screen. Let her rot in that dump. I gave them the GoFundMe link for PR. Cry for me, baby. Gasps erupted. Heads turned. Phones lifted. Next slide. She's good for sympathy points. Keep the camera angles low. Show the cracks. Suddenly no one was clapping. Brittany froze her mouth slightly open. She glanced off stage, then back to the screen. The golden glow didn't look so forgiving anymore. Her perfect posture, wilted shoulders slumping just slightly. A third slide appeared text messages. Real ones. Her own words time-stamped, matched against her campaign content. Then screenshots of donation withdrawals linked directly to her business account. Silence fell over the crowd like a dropped curtain. Then something unexpected happened. Aunt Imogene stood. Scheduled to speak about Brittany's resilience, she walked up to the podium with slow, deliberate steps. The room held its breath. She didn't look at Brittany. She looked at the audience. I was asked to speak about hope, she began, voice steady. But I cannot stand here and pretend anymore. For too long, this family has smiled in public while silencing truth in private. We've propped up one daughter while writing off the other. There was no rage in her voice, just sadness and resolve. Tonight, I don't stand with what photographs well. I stand with what's real. Then she walked across the ballroom floor, her heels echoing like punctuation, and without hesitation wrapped her arms around me. A real hug, the kind that holds you together when the world's trying to shake you loose. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. But I did feel something crack open in my chest. Relief, maybe. Or release. The applause started slowly. Just a few hands at first. Then more. Brittany. She slipped off stage quietly, her gown catching on a chair leg as she fled. No exit speech. No closing affirmation. Just the sound of her world folding in on itself. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about truth reclaiming its place. I stood not for the crowd or for the headlines, but for the version of myself who had been mocked, erased, and used. For the girl who once thought silence kept the peace. For the woman who finally realized peace doesn't live in silence. It lives in truth. And that night, the truth finally stood tall. As the morning sun filtered through the newly repaired window, Sarah stood barefoot in her kitchen, the same kitchen her sister once mocked on live stream. There were no ring lights now, no performance, just the quiet hum of the coffee pot and the scent of fresh paint. The hardwood floor, once warped and creaking, now shined beneath her feet. The $900 house she was told was worthless had become a place of quiet victory. A neighbor's child waved from the sidewalk chalk, still in hand, beside a message scrawled in big hopeful letters, "You matter." This wasn't about money anymore, or even justice. It was about peace, real, steady, earned peace. Sarah didn't need a public apology from her family. She didn't need validation. She'd stopped knocking on closed doors and built one of her own. Life lesson. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't fighting to be seen, but choosing to walk away and build something beautiful in the silence. Family doesn't always mean safety, and love without respect is just control in disguise. Your worth isn't up for debate. It's in the life you choose to build when no one's clapping. Have you ever had to walk away to find peace? Share your story in the comments. I read every word, and if stories of strength healing and quiet revenge speak to you, subscribe. This community sees you, hears you, and grows with you. Your voice matters here.